Y'all, here we are. We're 3 days into a new presumptive Democratic candidate for this year's election. I think I'm saying that right. And uh, we're living through another historic moment. Another moment that will be in the history books that some people see as weird. It's a little disjointed and disconcerting in some ways, but it's also an exciting time because I think this is a time where we get to decide where we stand, right? Where do we stand in terms of who we are as Americans, who we want, the type of America we want to live in. And I think that's exciting. I hope that it's not disappointing when we see where it comes out. But I think that here's a few things that are on my mind at this point. And I've enjoyed election season and politics since the third grade. And I remember my third grade teacher did a mock election in our classroom. And that was when Ann Richards was running for Texas governor. And I believe her opponent at that point was Clayton Williams. And he, she was running as a woman. I think at that point she would have been the first woman governor for Texas. And Clayton Williams had made a joke that got made public about women. And it was that, like, oh, you know why rape isn't possible? Because a woman can run faster with her dress up than a man can with his pants down. Lord Jesus. And again, he was still, even with that, and with that being made public, he was still running strong. It was not in the bag for her. And I think about where I started and where my love and my interest of election season and politics and government really started, and cut to where we are today, cut to 2015, cut to 2016. And we are still, like, the underlying question for every election is always, who do we want to be as a country? And while I have loved elections, I've loved political season, I've always said that presidential election years, midterm election years are like my Super Bowl, right? Like I'm not an avid sports watcher, but this gets me going. I get excited about this. And that kind of waned a little bit in 2016, and then in 2020 it was just a fight for our lives. But with that love for government and civics, I think about where we are today, and just here's what I do know, right? Not a political historian or not claiming to be, just somebody who does get excited about these seasons. And a couple of things that I know for sure, right? I know, based just on what third grade history, if you want to say, I know this country made a promise. And as someone who was raised right, I know when you make a promise, you keep a promise. And this country promised freedom for all. This country promised the pursuit of happiness to all. And we need to keep that promise. And who is going to help keep that promise for all? And so thinking about that, and then thinking about this whole make America great again. And I've never understood, when was the time in history that America was great, was like done deal, no work needed, right? And I know that what doesn't make America great is taking rights away from people. I know that what doesn't make America great is pitting people against each other, of saying that they're taking black jobs, which I still don't know what a black job is. They're taking your job, meaning white jobs. Like when you are they or there or you're othering people, you're not honoring the promise of this country. You are not. When you are othering immigrants, when you are dehumanizing people, whether they are citizens or whether they are non-citizens, that is not a great America. That is beneath this country. And what I also know is that if you believe that that's the path to make America great again, that is un-American. That is an un-American way to approach anything, is to dehumanize, devalue, to other anybody, to turn against your neighbor. Un-American. That is not the way, that's not the promise that this country was founded on. Now, we haven't lived up to that promise, and we have an opportunity to live up to the promise, but we have to decide who we're going to be. I know where I stand. I know what I want this country to look like for myself. I know what I need this country to look like for the other people in this country. And I just hope that there are more of us who think that the promise can be achieved and that there's a path to achieving it that does not look like what we've been presented with by so many that are sitting in Congress and the person who's running for president on one side. Those are my thoughts. That's it, and that's all for tonight, y'all.